Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we get episode 151 today.
The Fireball one.
You keep calling it that, so no, explain that.
Isn't it a drink? I mean, isn't there a drink? Isn't there a liquor that's 151 proof?
I think there's a few of them that are 151, but some of them just market a little bit better than the others.
So I think that's one of them is Fireball.
I think if I'm not mistaken, it's 75% alcohol.
Yes.
Is that right?
Here's how you take the proof is the percentage of alcohol doubled.
They should just call it 75. I mean, why are they going to play games with it,
It's pretty much grain alcohol at that point.
Yeah, I know, right?
I never drank anything that strong. What's the most drunk you ever got?
Oh, I don't want to talk about it. It was... yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, wifey had a birthday party, and we went to a bar, and they were making us Long Islands.
Okay.
And after I should have stopped after one.
Oh yeah, those are really strong. I don't like that. They're killers.
Those are I mean they went down way too easy. She finished her second. I did not.
Yeah, I had a couple nights where I walked in the house and fell asleep on the couch. That's probably about the worst it's been.
Every time I would get drunk, the chair always knew the way home.
Yeah. I mean,
it's one of those things. I don't know where the heck I am, but the chair always knew the way home. So.
Anyway,
so
episode 151, ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE, that is the text line. digitaltodice@yahoo.com is our email, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digital2dice. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about kind of a controversial subject. We're going to talk about accuracy in games and why we talk about that. We've brushed on it before in the past, but we're really going to hit it hard today. And what we find, and in fact, Ron and I probably have some different opinions on accuracy in our games, and so that's going to be a fun discussion today. But that's like the number one question that we get is when we show off a game.
How accurate is it?
Yeah, we show off a game or someone shows off a game. How accurate is this game? So we're going to talk about how accurate is this game and what that means to us in the whole bit. So we'll be doing that. Before we do that, should we get to what we're playing?
Yes. I suppose we should probably start with the stream that you and I did last night on Saturday on Stone Cold Hockey.
Holy cow, that was fun.
Wasn't that fun?
That was fun, yeah. We got the 1990-91 season we pulled out last night. That should be released this week, by the way. In fact, some people have already got theirs in the mail.
Yes.
So the pre-orders have gone out. Yeah, we did 3 games last night. So, yeah, that was a fun time.
So the first one was a grinder. It was the old NFC Norris. It was Chicago and St. Louis. And, oh, my God, my teeth hurt after that one. There was so many hits. It really reminded me of Gary Brown's Legend of Boxing. That was more of a fight than it was there. And then we did Hartford and Boston. And that was fun. That was really fun.
Boston got down to 1 stamina. That's as low as you can go. Hartford beat them up in Boston.
In Boston. And every time that Hartford would score, the poor Whalers, and someone that shall remain nameless would boo. And so... Yeah, that would
there was a 5-minute major in that game, and then Hartford got another penalty. So Boston had a 2-minute advantage. Actually, didn't score till that was the 2-minute advantage was up, and they had the 1-minute advantage. So they finally did score 1 on that, and that was the game. They was it Ken Hodge scored on the last roll of the game.
Ken Hodge on the last roll of the game.
6-5 Boston. Yeah, so that was a fun game.
That was fun, and then we finished with the Stanley Cup Final from that year, Pittsburgh and Minnesota.
Yeah, that was all Pittsburgh. Minnesota kept it fairly close, but it was all Minnesota, all Pittsburgh.
The great thing I think about that game is it just kind of teams just really have that right feel.
Yeah.
When Pittsburgh got rolling last night in that last game, it was like, yep, it's woodshed time. And
it just was fun that we had three very different games.
Yes.
And we played them last night live on YouTube, so that was a good time. So what else have you been playing?
What else have I been playing? I am in the middle of my playoffs for my 85 baseball replay, and some controversy in that as well. California and Toronto are in the American League Championship Series, and it's an engine problem because the computer doesn't want I'm using Action PC Sports or Action PC Baseball, and it really doesn't want to use a pitcher on 3 days rest. and it's come up in that series already. The Blue Jays lead 2-0. Both of the games have not been very close, and so California, after we do this, and I have my dinner, and we play Game 3 of that series, and so Mike Witt, California's quote unquote ace, gets the chance to go for Toronto against Jimmy Key, but Toronto has pretty much won the first 2 games with ease. The second series, St. Louis and the Dodgers, John Tudor in my replay for the Cardinals was a 28-game winner in his 36 starts, which is pretty impressive.
Wow.
And then through 300 innings and then earned run average under 2. And he hit the Dodgers in Game 1.
Oh, wow.
And so Game 2 was the next day, and it was Oral Hershiser against Lockheed Indahar. You can't get much more weirder and different personality between those two. And the Dodgers were trailing in that one and came back to beat the Cardinal bullpen and walked it off. So that series is tied at 1.
Wow.
So yeah, that was fun. Let's see. I also pulled out Strat basketball yesterday.
Yeah, you like that. Yeah.
The Celtics in Cleveland. And the Celtics, even without Kevin McHale, smashed Cleveland. I did notice that the next game on the Celtics schedule is against Atlanta.
Oh, boy.
And so that's pretty much... Oh, I bought a game called Tennis World.
Okay.
I don't know if we talked about that in the last show or not. No, because the last show we did was the interview with Carrie. So Tennis World is the latest from Owzat Games, Terry Goodchild. And it works kind of a lot like motorsport. And so no one is individually rated. You get 10 rating cards for male and 10 rating cards for female players, a chart for how points are resolved in certain situations, a tiebreak chart, and some instructions that are pretty easy to follow. And it really is just 3d6 that you read, and you could pretty much, like motorsport, you could pretty much recreate any tennis match in history.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It was like $17. Very, very cheap. PDF came the next day. And so, yeah. So I haven't shown that yet on my channel. But a pretty fun game. It's mostly game by game. But there's a few times in each set that it will give you the option to roll point by point after you reach a certain stature in the game.
Yeah, I like tennis games that'll give you the option of playing at a faraway view or medium view or a tight view. I mean, you can play the game, the match, the point, or whatever. I mean, it is kind of fun when you have that option.
So it's kind of a hybrid in their way. It's a far away, and then there are certain times where you roll for point by point. It's not shot by shot. And again, you rate your own players. So theoretically, you and I could play.
All right.
So, but yeah, I think that's very fun. So that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Okay. I've been playing mostly hockey and football. I did play a little bit of Cleveland Spiders baseball, which was kind of fun.
Bring out the buggy whips.
Yeah, and then I played the Super Series 76. I had the Red Army play the New York Rangers in Strat Hockey. And that was really fun. It's been a while since I played Strat Hockey, and I tried to play the Super Advanced Power Play, and I thought it went pretty well. I thought I did pretty well with that, considering it's the first time I've really tried it. So I played some Strat Hockey. That was fun. I played some Shootout Hockey. The 74-75 season's been released, so I had to play opening day, the Kansas City Scouts' first game. They were at Toronto. I did that. So that was another fun game. Obviously,
Kansas City just won't lay down in anytime you bring it out.
They play tough. They actually beat the Bruins at home in one of their first 2 seasons. Oh, they only had 2 seasons, but they beat the Bruins at home one time, 3-2, I think it was, and they were shocked, in Boston. But they play them tough, and they always play the Maple Leafs tough in that game. And that's one that I play all the time. No matter what game it is, if I have 74-75, I play opening day in Toronto versus Kansas City. Also played some Inside Blitz PC football. I played the Cowboys at the Rams. That was actually a playoff game that I kind of just played there. I think I streamed that one, too. That was fun. I enjoy Inside Blitz PC. It's just kind of a relaxing type of game for me.
What year?
That was 85.
Okay.
1985. I played that one.
That's the year that Dickerson ran all over them for 253 yards.
I think the Rams actually won that one, but it wasn't the 20-0 game in real life. But it still was a fun time. Obviously, playing some more pro strategy football 2023.
That's true. We both have, yeah.
Yeah, I played 1981 week 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take 1 week and pick one game and play that game. And then what I do at the end of the quarter, I go back to the studio and we try to see the scores of the other games that are happening that day. So I kind of treat it like as a full broadcast there. So that was kind of fun. And yeah, I think that's about it. Some strat hockey, shootout hockey, stone cold hockey, inside blitz football, pro strategy football, and a little bit of Cleveland Spiders baseball. And
it's a lot for you.
Yeah, that's quite, considering I'm going into busy season, I probably won't be playing anything for, I get a stretch of 11 days without a day off, and sometimes I'm going to 2 different rinks in 2 different days, and it's just it's just going to be a busy time as the junior hockey starts up, so I'm doing that. So the hockey broadcasting is going on too. I actually picked up another side gig. I don't want to talk about it until I know it's a done deal, but I've been doing something else that I'll tell everybody about that could be kind of fun for me to do and maybe fun for you guys to listen to. So once I get that squared away, I'll let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. But until I know it's a done deal, I don't want to say too much about it. But I have been working on some other things as well.
Yes, you have.
Fun. Yeah, so it's just been a busy day. This is my third recording of the day, so to speak.
There you go.
So it's been kind of busy. And I haven't even started the hockey broadcasting yet, so that's coming up as well.
Actually, you did the unboxing for Stone Cold Hockey, the game.
Yeah,
right?
Actually, this would be my 4th broadcast of the day then, yeah. So I did 4 today. This would be the 4th time today I've been behind the microphone. Yeah, so I did a unboxing of the Stone Cold Hockey Cards and Dice game, and also I did I created a team in the game, and I showed I showed how to create a fictional team in the game using the instructions of the book. Yeah, it was kind of fun, actually. I didn't put the player names in there yet. That was something I could do later, and it would have taken a long time to do. But it still was fun kind of creating a team. You roll the dice to see how their offense is and the power play and the defense and the goalies. And, so you can kind of like cringe, oh, no, the goalie's only a 6, and the attack's only a 7, So,
right.
So it is kind of fun doing that. But that's pretty much what I've been playing there. So,
nice.
Yeah, so I want to roll on into the topic of the day.
That might be the fastest what we've been playing ever.
Yeah, we kind of flew through that, yeah.
Yeah, let's get right to it.
All right, here we go. So.
Yes.
How do you want to start this one? We're gonna talk about accuracy in games, and again, going back to what we stated in the beginning of the show, we that seems to be the question all the time. It's just.
And I think it's the wrong question, because I think accuracy means different things to different people. And I know, I don't want to pick out a game and have, the 62 Mets win the World Series, or the Washington Capitals of 74-75 win the Stanley Cup, or the 76 Tampa Bay Bucks beat 500. I just don't, I think the word I would use instead of accurate is it realistic? Because I think all games are based on math, okay? Whether it's a play game and the characteristics, or a pure card and dice game like a Strat or Appa, it's all based on math. And what we're doing is, how do you translate that math into something that makes it playable? And so we also have all of us have our own inherent biases. For me, once you take the virtual rubber bands off the cards, all bets are off. And am I trying to recreate a result, or am I trying to win the game? And I think that's where some of the stuff kind of goes off the rails. And so, you had a game in pro strategy football. You're playing the Giants in Tampa. And what, Joe Danello went 3 for 7?
He missed four out of the 7 field goals he tried. He missed in that game.
Now, that's not that unrealistic. I mean, it's worthy of pulling your hair out if you're coaching the Giants in that game. But that's no from here for there. I mean, in my 85 baseball replay, California and Toronto hit their win numbers on the number. The Blue Jays won 99 and California won 90. And that you can't get much more spot on than that, except for that Kansas City played 6 games worse, so California won the division. 3 of my 4 playoff teams were real-life winners. St. Louis and the Dodgers are won their divisions in the National League. And no Vince Coleman's not getting run over by the tarp machine when I play Game 3 in St. Louis. And again, you can have a lot of fun with that, and you can go through and look at the numbers and go, yeah, they're spot on. I mean, one day you and I went through and looked at Action PC Football and the replays I'd done in that, and absolute pinpoint accuracy. But, but it's all math. And so if the math is right, for me, the rest of it kind of comes out there. And so for me, it's kind of, is it plausible? Is it realistic?
And there was someone that actually brought up something good, too, that when I was following one of the threads on, I don't know, one of the social medias. And they brought up a good point. It's like, do you want to play game X and have everything come out exact? Is that your goal? And if you do that, is that going to be fun for you to play whatever game it is, whatever sport it is, and have everything come out exactly as it did in real life? Would that be a good thing, a bad thing? Would that make you happy, or would that make you say, why would I bother playing this game? And you brought up a good point. Some of these games, you actually make decisions and you play to win.
Right.
So you're trying to win. Myself, I tend to play the no-decision games and kind of just like watch and broadcast, and that's where I get my fun. Now, there's sometimes I like to make decisions. But
yeah.
But, I mean, again, I think that's a good question. If you played this game and you got everybody's record to come out exact every time, how many times would you play that game?
Well, the other thing is, too, are you looking for the records to be exact? Do you want the stats at a league level to be exact? I mean, if the average was 4.53 runs per game, is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for extra base hits to be about right? It depends on what it is that you do. Is this something you're playing on the table as a cards and dice game, or are you letting the computer make this?
And again, I guess the question is, if someone says how accurate is it, I would say define accurate. What is your definition of accurate? That's the thing. Do you want records to be exact? Do you want Brady to always throw pretty close to the exact amount of yards? Do you want Gretzky to score all these goals? I mean, do you want Maris to hit that many home runs? I mean, what is your definition of accurate? So it's a tough question to actually answer when someone says, how accurate is this game? Because it's really a judgment call, and it really depends on your definition of accurate. Myself, I go more the fun factor for me. For me, it's, first of all, can I learn the game and can I play the game?
Right.
That's first and foremost with me. You could have the most, quote, statistically accurate game in the world, but if I can't figure it out, or if I have trouble playing it, or if I don't have fun playing it, I ain't going to play it. For me, it comes down to how much fun am I having? Is the ease of play, enough for me to continue playing this game? So for me, I take the fun over the accuracy. That being said, we've said this a million times, you don't want, the 76 Buccaneers winning the Super Bowl. You don't want that either. So there is a line that I draw between, okay, what is, again, like you said, realistic. That's probably the best word to use.
I'd much rather hear the word, is the game realistic?
Because accurate is... Sorry, it's a busy day at the house when we have dogs barking.
Yes.
But again, accurate is such a subjective term. What is your definition of accurate? And so, I mean, is it realistic? And is realistic mean accurate? It's such a gray area when somebody asks that question. It's kind of like, how was that hamburger you just ate? Well, I might like it loaded with, mayonnaise and ketchup, and you might like just ketchup and mustard. You might not like onions. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, sometimes it's so hard to answer some of these questions, and and I don't know what to say sometimes.
There's one replay I didn't finish because it just was going to be impossible. I did 81, 82. Islanders were going great, but the Stratomatic didn't card everyone right. And so it was going to be impossible for Gretzky to even come close to his 200-point total. He just wasn't going to get enough ice time to score enough goals. He was still going to get over 100 points, but he got to the point where when I stopped, he was going to have to average 3.5 points a game to even come remotely in the ballpark, and that's not why you're doing that season.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on, again, what it is that you're looking for.
Didn't we talk to developers about what they do games, and they said it's really, really hard to hit those outliers, I think they call them. When you got like the Gretzky's that score ridiculous amounts of points, it's hard to card a guy like that, and it's also hard to card someone who only played a handful of games and maybe scored a goal in those 5 games that he played.
Right.
You know, because he's not going to play a full season, but you got to give him his due. He scored in the few games he's played. So those are hard to card as well.
And then there's the argument back and forth I see with certain football games. Do you let your running back or receiver exceed their long gain for whatever season it is? So let's say you're down at the 2-yard line and you throw a flat pass to Jerry Rice. Well, Rice's longest catch in a given year might have been 60 yards, but on the chart it says it's a touchdown.
Right.
So it would be 98. So for me, I would let that 98-yard thing happen. It's I wouldn't want to do it 25 times, but there are people who would cap that at 60 yards. And if that's what is important to you, there's nothing wrong with that. We've talked about your game, your rules, and the way you want to play. But yeah, I mean,
I think you bring up a really good point, is that there's so many, I don't want to call them intangibles, but there's so many things and items and stats and rules that come into play when you're playing these games. Like that was a perfect example. You throw a 98-yard pass for a touchdown, but some games cap them at their maximum game, which was 60. So do you cap it at a 60-yard game, or do you let the touchdown happen? That's a decision that you have to make, and that will really affect the fun of the game and the accuracy of the game, depending on what decision you make. And again, you don't want it happening all the time, but there are things in the game that happen like that. You know, you're going to get the rare play that's going to skew some things. You're going to get the game where you just get odd rolls, and we've all played the game. And, I look back at that Hockey Bones, Quebec-Boston game where I went deep into the third period before I had a chance to score a goal. 22 or 23 scoring chances, and none of them were in range and available to score. They were all automatic saves. It was just bad dice rolling, that game. So could it happen? Yeah. Could it happen in real life? Yeah. But in my game, we've all rolled bad dice. We've all chucked dice around the room because we've been mad. We've all flipped cards that have been bad.
Right.
And that happens in our game. So all these things happen within the game that are going to affect, quote, what you call accurate.
I just had a Dodger playoff game where Fernando Valenzuela threw 3 wild pitches in the game. He averaged, I think, 9 over a 6-year period per season. And so that would have been 1/3 of his total and 1 start of his 35 or 36. And then I had something I don't think I've ever had in any baseball sim before. I had back-to-back balks. It could happen. And again, that would never happen in a game. Well, it just did. And I suppose it depends on how you look at things. And so, again, trying to card for outliers or design for outliers or get the AI to play in the style that you want to play. And a lot of the computer games let you go through and change ratings. If you don't think that your offensive lineman was undercarded for being a run blocker, you can change that. Well, you have a good example of that. When you first started, you did the 3 Russians on the Bruins. And you thought they were going to kick some serious tail just because of their names and their reputation. And they underperformed. Tretiak especially, right?
Yeah, it turns out that I put the top 2 forwards on a line with Phil Esposito, and Tretiak was my starting goalie in the 74 Bruins. And by mid-season, Tretiak was the backup, and both the Russians were down on the third line. They were scoring, but they weren't doing anything better than my third line guys.
And so again, is that a turn? I mean, is that a turn off? Now, I mean, what you did that when you first started the gaming, and you kind of gave it up because it wasn't much fun. But if you were to do that now and have the same result, I think it brings for an interesting storyline, especially with Don Cherry as the coach. I mean, what do you do with that?
Yeah. I think it all depends on what you're looking for in a game. Are you looking, like I say, to get as close as possible? Are you looking to get exact? Is that your goal? Is your goal to play and win the game? Is your goal just for storylines? I mean, because weird things happen when we play. Like you said, once the dice start chucking, everything goes out the window as far as any kind of normalcy, because anything can happen when you start rolling those dice. And so, are you there for the storyline? Because sometimes something weird happens and it makes for a fun outcome. And it really does. It might not be an accurate outcome. It might not be very realistic, but I think it's very fun when that happens. So you get a storyline. The other thing you got to consider is sometimes we play these games. I'm very guilty of it. Or I only play a handful of games. So it's hard to judge a game on a handful. You really want to play, 50 or 100 times. Then see what your results are, because you can always play one game and it's an odd result, and you're like, oh well, this game's terrible. But then as you play a few more, things even out. And I think my first game of Apple Hockey, my actual first game, I had a ton of penalties. I think it was the Kings and the Bruins from 1990, and I was like, wow, is that how this game's going to be? I'm going to get 17 penalties every game. This is not going to be fun. And
right.
then the next game I had 3. I mean, I didn't give up after the first game. I kept playing, and then it just kind of averaged out. You're going to get those high penalty games, and then you're going to get those low penalty games.
I know for a baseball replay that the general rule of thumb is don't talk to anyone about your stats over a given season until if you're doing a single team replay, until you've played everybody 6 times. And if you're doing a full season one, don't talk to me until you've played a quarter of the season. Because you just don't know. Yeah. I mean, if you get 2 triples, back-to-back triples by, let's say, you or me, people are going to go, oh, this isn't very accurate. But over the course of 40 games or whatever, a quarter of a season, chances are you and I didn't hit another triple.
Yeah, well, that's a good point that you brought up. It's like, I think I was playing a hockey game and somebody scored a goal. An obscure player scored a goal. And you looked up and says, he had 1 goal that year. Well, he had 1 goal, so that means he's probably going to score one along the way somewhere, so why not now?
Right.
And if I play the rest of the season and he doesn't score again, then I'm right on track. And if he scores 10 or 15, okay, now that's a little odd, and, that was either some bad dice rolling or maybe the game has some issues with its design. But I'll be quite honest with you, Ron. I don't think I have played a game yet. I've played a lot of games. As you say, I'm the Golden Corral of the games. I have not played a game yet where I walked away from it because I thought it was unrealistic. I just haven't. Whether it's been a quick play game, a medium play game, or a long play game, I've never walked away from a game saying I'm never playing this again because it's completely broken and it's not accurate, it's not realistic, and this would never happen. Have I had those results? Yes, I have. I think we all have. But then you play more, and then you get a more normal game, and then you feel better about things. And I think I've talked about that in the show, or maybe I've called you, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe what's happened. And you were like, play a couple more games and call me back. And I play a couple more games, like, okay, yeah, this is much better. So
we go with. I'm not to pick on you, but faulty memory. When I did the 78 football season, which I did in Action PC, there's a couple things. One of them was something that you brought up to me. Like, I don't remember Steve Grogan being a running quarterback. Grogan was doing mad scrambles around the field, and you look it up and like, oh, he ran for 650 yards or whatever it was. Yes, that's exactly what he did. And again, we've talked about this before. I'll bring up the 78 Kansas City Chiefs, 4-win team, 2-win team, whatever the heck they were in real life. They were doing well. Walk-off safety not included, but that was the one that Al Red Sox fans said, Ron, they lost 6 games by 10 points combined. And football, I think, is the toughest to get right because you only have 16 games or 17 games in a given season. So the margin of error is, again, you did Tampa and Pittsburgh in 76, which 99 and a half times out of 100, Pittsburgh should win. But you got Tampa to beat them once.
Yeah, I wish I had streamed that game because the dice rolls were, and it was honest. It was an honest roll, and it was just everything went. Tampa had such a low scoring chance, and I kept hitting it. And Pittsburgh's, when they were on offense against Tampa, they had such a high chance to score, and I kept missing it. And I just laughed at how this game was going, and it continued. It just was an absolute fluke. But again, if you play that 100 times, there's a chance that they're going to win one of them. As slim as the chance as that is. In real life, I don't think so. But I think in the games that we play, I really do think just about anything's possible if the dice rolls go exactly the way you go. And I've had that in shootout hockey too, where I've just, wow, I can't believe, the scoring chance is this low, and I keep getting scoring chances for this team, and that's the only way they can win the game, and they would win it.
But the game last night between the Whalers and the Bruins that we played was Hartford had a 1-7 chance to.
You kept rolling two. You kept rolling out two.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy cow, another Hartford chance, another Hartford chance, another Hartford chance. It just kind of happened, and it made for a fun game.
And I think you wouldn't ever want to take out a game with a chance that a team couldn't win.
Right.
It's not, you don't want to be very high. I mean, again, I don't want the 74, 75 Capitals to be a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination, but you want them to have some sort of, they won 9 games. Mm-hmm. Those poor teams that they beat, I'm sure didn't feel real good, especially later on in the season.
Yeah. Well, how many times have I done a Seals replay? And even PJet did a Seals replay. He took their worst season, which I think was 73-74, and played an entire season of Seals games, and he said he got more wins than in real life, and I think I did too.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean the game is busted and the game is terrible and not accurate? No, it just means in our playthrough, we squeezed out a few more wins. Didn't make him a playoff team, but, I think I got maybe 3 more wins. I think he said he got 5 or 6 more wins than they got in real life. So, again, it's realistic. It's in the ballpark. And for me, as long as it feels realistic and it feels close, and that's good enough for me. I'm not a very finicky person when it comes to accuracy in a game. I want to play it. I want to have fun, first of all. And as long as I'm in the ballpark, I'm going to have a good time.
First time, if I pull out a newer sim to me, I'll go around through and play a handful of games to get a feel for the game. How well is it going to do for what it is I want to do? Am I going to have fun with it? Mm-hmm. Is it going to be plausible? Is what I'm seeing in front of me plausible? There's a couple games, I'm not going to mention them, that there just seems to be, every game seems to be a miraculous comeback and no team could ever hold the lead. Now, does it mean that the game is inaccurate? Not at all. But if you're knowing that you're going to be struggling for a chunk of time trying to hold on to something and you're just not quite sure where those results are coming from, then yes, that kind of gets old after a while because you just kind of know what's coming. We all want to have the furious comeback. We all want to have the nonstop excitement, but 11-0 games happen. Mm-hmm. 25-point wins in basketball happen. Whatever it is, it is. And sometimes a bad team could have a great day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes a good team can have a bad day. Mm-hmm. And because on my channel, I tend to bounce around from good game, good team versus good team, as opposed to someone who was taking out a single team there, and they're going to play some good teams and they're going to play some bad teams, and it all kind of evens out. I did someone asked me about my double play rate in 85, and I think I was within 1/100th of the double play number with about 2 weeks to go in my season. It was going to be there. And so I looked at some of what's called the slash line. So it's batting average, slugging percentage, and on base percentage. And they were all within 2 or 3 points of each other. It's like, yeah, that to me, that's completely accurate. And it was fun. And again, I don't feel that the numbers were preordained. I think baseball, I think is the easiest because in a season you get 2,430 games.
I think for the most part, the games, at least the ones I've played, the ratings on the teams and the players are going to get you close, especially team ratings. Players maybe a little bit more difficult, but it seems like that. I've played quick play games, an entire season of a quick play game, and my results were pretty darn close. A couple were spot on, some were close, and a couple of third and fourth place teams might have swapped positions, something like that. But for the most part, it worked out pretty well. I played some playoff replays, and I've had some different champions, but it wasn't like the eighth seed swept everybody on the way to the Stanley Cup. It was nothing like that. I've had my replays that come out a little different than real life. But again, I haven't found anything that's been horrible. I think everything is quite realistic. It's quite believable. It's a fun little storyline. And I think for the most part, most games, if not all games, they're going to get you in the ballpark. Now, the size of your ballpark and the size of my ballpark might be quite different.
Are two different things. Sure.
You might be okay with this, and I might not, or I might be okay, with the Capitals instead of getting 9 wins, getting 15. You might not be okay with that. You might think that that's way too much, and the game is not doing its job. So I it's so subjective. When we talk about accuracy, it's a question that really can't be answered. It's like, what's the best band of all time? You can't answer that because there's so many genres, and there's bands today, there's bands from yesterday, there's bands we grew up. You got your favorite bands, I got mine. Who's the better musician? Well, it's hard to say who the better musician is. Sometimes you get fantastic musicians, they just don't write good songs, and you're like, how did this guy not make it in the music business? He didn't write good songs, or he didn't write songs that people wanted to hear, or not enough people wanted to hear. I know a lot of really good musicians, and listen to a lot of really good musicians that are phenomenal, that blow away some of my favorite bands, musically speaking. Okay? But the bands that I listen to write some pretty damn good songs, and they might not be the most technical on their instrument, and they might not be the best at it, but what they do is good enough for me, and they make a ton of money doing it. And you got some other people that are so good that just didn't find the right band or the right fit. So, it's kind of the same thing. I think that, you're going to find some games that, maybe a game that's more difficult. It's got more steps and more branches off the tree, so to speak. Will give you better accuracy because there's more of a chance because you're cutting. And so instead of a big chunk, you're cutting it down into little chunks that you can all that'll help to get that accuracy instead of
and again
instead of having one roll, you might have 6 rolls. Now there's a better chance of getting more accuracy with 6 rolls than there is with one. Because you're going to get a generic rating at that point. But every time you file it down and you do more in the game, I think there's a chance that the game might produce better results. Maybe.
And again, are people looking at statistical accuracy? Are they looking for one loss accuracy? I mean, do you want? I mean, take a look at, let's say, the '69 Mets, who were a terrible hitting team. They pitched really well, and they completely upset the Orioles in the World Series. Now, the Mets were a 100-win team. They weren't a fluke, but there's no way in heck that they should have beaten, on paper, the Orioles were a better team. And the 86 Houston Rockets, they got lucky. They outplayed the Lakers, and anything can happen in a short series. I mean, that's one of the things about with so many rounds of playoffs today in all the sports is that you get a champion that was hot at the right time.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily the best team of the year. I mean, if you looked last week at the NFL, the Super Bowl champion Rams lost, and the AFC champion Bengals lost, thanks to the fact that they couldn't make an extra point of the gun.
Well, we looked at last time when we played Stone Cold Hockey. We had the Minnesota North Stars, and we're like, how the heck did these guys ever get to the Stanley Cup Finals?
They got past Edmonton for the defending cup.
It just happened. They got hot, and that's another thing in some of these games. You got the regular season results, and then you get the playoff results, and boy, how do you? I still don't know what to do here because it's like you're going to card a team on their regular season. Are they going to get hot for you in the playoffs like they did in real life? Chances are no. you're not going to get those hot rolls of the dice like they got, the flukes that they got, or the crazy bounce or whatever it is in your game. So you got to factor in that too. There's so many intangibles and there's so many variables when it comes into these games. I don't. My bottom line is I want to play and have fun. And just get me close, and I'm fine with that. Just don't give me anything ridiculous, and I'm usually okay with it. But again, everybody has a different line of where they want to, put in the sand as far as what I'm okay with.
Right, and I think it kind of goes by. For me, it kind of goes by feel. I don't want to overly. Dave Sachs of the Red Sox would be a good example in the mid-'80s. He was like a 50 at-bat player and hit 450. And if you really want to throw him out there every day, hey, it's your game, your rules. But, a realistic usage of when you're going to use those at-bats. And you bring someone up kind of like that in a crucial situation, and at-bat-wise, he's fine. And usage, he's within 25% and strikes out with the bases loaded. It happens. I said we talked about Kansas, the 78 Chiefs.
Here's another thing I wanted to bring up is APA baseball. You got APA Basic, and then you have the APA Master. Okay,
right
now. I like my APA Basic. I do. I really enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic, it's a fun game. And in the APA community, and I stay out of these arguments because I don't play it enough. Some people swear by the Basic, and some people swear by the Master, and you get some people saying no, you got to play Master because it's better, it gets you better results, it's a little bit more accurate, and you got other people say the Basic is more accurate, and that you just kind of wasting your time with all these extra lookups and rolls and charts that it takes so long to play the Master game, and it's confusing, and you're really not getting any more out of it. You're not really getting any more accuracy. So there's a little battle that I don't know which one it is, so I stay out of it because I haven't played enough, but I've seen that in the APA community where just because you're doing more in a game and you're playing the, quote, advanced or master part of the game, you're really not making it any more, quote, accurate.
I mean, here's where I kind of come down with it. I think the more comfortable you are in playing the game, the more it's going to become accurate and realistic for you because it becomes you're playing the sport and not necessarily the engine, if that makes any sense. And so, I mean, the big push against APA Basic is that pitchers are graded to stop singles. And if you give up an extra, Sandy Koufax can give up the same amount of home runs as me, depending on who he's facing. The difference is that Sandy's not going to walk or give up a lot of singles, and so a lot of those home runs are going to be solo homers, while you or I are giving up three run or grand slams. And again, the more you play any sort of engine, the more comfortable it's going to be. And at some point, you're not playing hockey bones, you're playing hockey.
Right.
And once you get into that, I think you can make an argument for any game that you become comfortable with and know the rules, and you're not stopping to look up to see that, or because every game has flaws. There is no such thing as the perfect game. Well, can you stomach the game's flaws? Stratomatic, the 50-50, which I don't think is a real flaw, but for some people it is. The thing is that the Stratomatic doesn't really handle extremes all that well. We talked about APAs. Whether you like the open engine or the closed engine. I think the more you spend on the game, the more you expect out of it. You get a free game that's tremendous, like Above the Rim, which is highly accurate. You're not making any decisions, but hey, you haven't spent any money on it, so you can do whatever it is. You go out there and spend $150 on a football card set, and I won't mention the company, but you're going to want that to be pretty accurate. The APA cards, when for the last football season, there was a tremendous brouhaha over Josh Allen of the Bills, because Allen is a running, scrambling quarterback. Could Allen reach what they thought his potential was? And people were generally thinking of the Josh Allen versus the Chiefs in that playoff game, which to me was probably one of the top 5 football games I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, no, he struggled in this game and struggled in that game. And so back and forth you go between the perception of what you think a quarterback should be able to do to, no, this is his report card.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't, there's no right or wrong answer there. The card might have been poorly or wrong, but
yeah, I think the other thing to consider too is bias and experience. I mean, you might have a bias against a certain game. Maybe you had a bad experience with the game for one reason or another. Maybe it was the company. Maybe it was the person that sold the game. Maybe it was a game that you played. Any kind of bad experience at all, and now you're sour on the game and you got a bias about it. So maybe you're thinking, I'm never playing this game. This game sucks, and because you had a bad experience with it. So now you're biased against it. Maybe you just have a certain way of thinking about something, and this is the way the game should be, and this game is designed wrong, and blah blah. So I guess there's a bias that comes into play too, and it comes down to your experience with these games.
There's a we won't mention the company, but a hockey game, and you looked at it and go, how in the world do you score?
Yeah.
But when we went through the dice rolls of how that worked, so yeah, it's actually, you know what? It's pretty, percentage-wise, it's pretty accurate about how you get that result. Is it fun? Not necessarily if you know that you, again, I don't want to give away what game we're talking about here, but, so there, and again, as you said, if there's a company you don't really like or don't trust or whatever, yeah, your biases are going to be there. But again, I think the more comfortable you are with the game, I mean, I've seen extremely accurate replays with APA Basic. I've seen extremely accurate replays with Stratomatic Advanced.
Yeah, and another game that comes to mind as I'm looking at right here on my shelf is a Pocket Pennant Run. That's a super easy, fun baseball game. You get so much bang for the buck. You got a software program to print out lineups, so you don't have to print out your own score sheet. The game does it for you. It put in the lineup and print it, and you're ready to go. But because it's only like I said, the rolls and the charts are so minute and simple in this game that people were saying there's no way this game can be accurate. Look how this guy is rated. Look how this guy is rated. It's only A through D or A through E or whatever it was, and there's no way.
A through D. There's 4 or 5 categories.
There's no way that you'll get this, and there's people in the community that ran this game through the grinder and come out saying, something. This game is really not too bad compared to what you're all saying out there and jumping to conclusions. I ran the games, I played this, I did that, and I'm not finding any problems with this game. And this is a very, it's not a fast game per se. It's not a final score game. You still go through every at-bat in it, so it's going to be, some length. But everything resolves really fast. It's a really, really fun game. It's not a deep game like some of these other ones. But it plays so fun. It's so easy. And that game took a beating for the longest time. And finally, people stepped up to the plate, no pun intended, and defended the game and said, we don't find anything wrong with this. We've played, X amount of games, and our results are pretty much in line with what happened. So, again, that it's just, you wonder, too, how much of it is just kind of in your own mind. How much is it? You look at a game. A through D, that can't be accurate. And so then you get a bias against that game just
right.
for what you've seen.
And again, I think for a lot of people, you're looking up for whatever your expectation was coming in. And if you're going through, none of us are younger, and you're looking through something from when you were a teenager, and for a lot of us that was not last week. You're looking through it through the rose-colored glasses for that, as opposed to, no, this is what really happened,
right.
And so this is what you should expect. And okay, or sometimes you play to learn. And again, if the more comfortable you are, again, once any game stops being an engine and starts being the immersion that you're looking for, it's going to be, in your mind, a heck of a lot more accurate. That doesn't mean that there's no such thing as a bad game design. I'm not saying that at all. Not every game is going to appeal to every gamer. There are games that Dave likes that I don't, and there are games that I like that Dave doesn't. But that is someone likes pineapple on their pizza, and some of us like pepperoni on our pizza, and there's nothing wrong with either, no matter how much grief we give each other over that. And so, familiarity with the game, familiarity with the subject matter at hand. I mean, if your jam is late 50s baseball and you can find all sorts of information on it, it's going to be what it is for you. And so, for a game designer, one of the things that we talked to Gary about was, he has access to the computer game for Stone Cold Hockey. He was able to fine-tune teams based on what the computer was giving him for results. And so, again, is that going to be a completely accurate game? It's all based on ratings. There isn't a stat in there, even the goalie. And it's all based on charts and stuff like that. It's a very plausible game. And, again, a very exciting game. And, there are nights that maybe the Bruins just kind of got worn down and Hartford took advantage and did that, or what they did. How does that go over the course of a season? I mean, we were talking about that when you were started with the Bruins and the Hockey Bones. I said, I don't really want to hear about the results until you've got a quarter of the season done. Then tell me how that's going for you. Because, again, what was it, Graham Townsend? Graham Townsend score. Got an assist. It got the assist on the game winner for Ken Hodge. So if you're sitting there the second game in the season and you're still trying to figure out the game and you're rolling for the assist, and who? Graham, who?
Yeah, he's out there in the last minute of play.
Okay, and that just happens to be one of the things for Stone Cold. But, why is he getting the game-winning? This is so unrealistic. Why the heck would he be out there with 90 seconds to go? Well, you might have had someone with a broken skate, and he might have been the only defenseman available. I mean,
Or he might have got 4 assists on the season, and that was one of them. And it just happened to come at that time. Now, again, maybe in our game it was in the last minute of the game, but at the end of the season, are we going to remember that he was out there with a minute to go in the third game of the season and got that assist? Are we going to say, boy, he got 4 or 5 assists like he did in real life? And they just come at different times. I mean, they do, at some point, they do come into play. It's just when we play these games, and again, you're rolling a 99, and 0 to 25 is your top guy. He's got a 25% chance of getting that assist. And you roll the 99, and that's the only number this guy can get an assist on. Yeah, chances out he wasn't out there in the final minute. You got to kind of just realize he wasn't out there in the final minute in real life. But at some point in that game, he's going to get an assist. And, and so that's kind of how I look at that. It is an interesting storyline. Could you say somebody broke a skate, or maybe he came out of the penalty box and was trapped on the ice and made a pass? Absolutely. But I think what you try to do is take a step back, look at the overhead view of everything, and look at this guy. And instead of saying, why was he out there in the final minute and getting mad at the game, at the end of the season, you look at his points and say, oh, his points were in line. His points were in line with what he had in real life. So are we going to be mad that he was out there at crunch time? Again, the game said that, but when you look at the overall stats, it's kind of baked in, as I like to say.
Right.
So
he's not going to go out there and get 40 assists with a 1 in 100 chance of getting one.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it just happens. It was a fluky thing. He got the assist. It was at a weird time. Yes, it was. But, you can't look at the game and say, well, that would never will happen. Well, again, at the end of the season, if he gets 40 assists, let me know. The guy that got 4 assists, if he gets 40 assists, let me know, and then we'll talk about the game accuracy. If you roll 4 99s, 40 times you roll 99, okay, then it's a little out of whack. But you still got to roll 4 99s. 40 99s to get those 40 assists on him. So, again, I think most of these games, in fact, all these games, they do a really good job with ratings to get you into the ballpark. They try to factor in the fun factor. They try to factor in the ease of play. Again, would you want to play a game that was so complex that it just felt like you were playing the game and not playing a sport? I know I wouldn't. I absolutely give up, quote, accuracy and realism for fun all day long, because I play these games to be fun. I don't play them to, I do compare stats, and that's what we all do. I'm okay with some sway in the stats as long as I'm having fun. Again,
Right.
my line is different than your line. It's different than the people who listen to the show. Their lines are all going to be different.
Exactly.
I get that. So, but yeah, so that's one question that I just cringe when I see how accurate is the game. And whether they ask me or they ask you or they're asking people in general, when someone's playing a game and they put their results up and someone says, how accurate is this game? Boy, I tell you, that it's such a, you can't answer the question. You just can't answer it because there's so many things that go into that.
Yes. Yeah. Different levels of complexity. And again, how comfortable are you with the engine? And if you're struggling with the engine, then...
Yep. And what does accuracy mean to you? You know? And, you know, again, what does it mean? How accurate? What does that mean? You could ask
100 different people, and I think you'd get 100 different answers.
Yep. So, again, I think it just comes down to let's just make the game fun. Let us want to play the game. Get us close. Doesn't matter if it's a quick play game, a medium play game, a long play game. It don't matter. As long as we get close, that's good enough for me. So, anyway. So, should we take a look at the so we want to know from you, the audience, you know, what do you think about game accuracy? What are your thoughts on game accuracy? When someone asks you, how accurate is this game? What is your response? And what are you looking for in accuracy? And again, are you looking for 100% perfection? Are you looking to nail everything, everybody's record exactly the same as it was in real life? Is that your goal? And will you not be happy unless you get that? And if you get that, why did you bother to play? Or are you looking for different results? Or I like a little mixed bag. I like to get some exact because that's kind of cool when a game gets it that correct. But I also like the storyline of a team that fell apart at the end of the season, or a team that came along at the end of the season. Or somebody got hot, somebody got cold. I mean, I like a little bit of storyline in there as well, and that means that we're going to get some different results. And, you know, if every time I played a game, it was the same 4 teams winning the division, going to the playoffs, and the same team won the championship, for me, that gets a little stale. It really does. It really, it's like ordering the same thing at the same restaurant all the time. So we want your thoughts on that. Without further ado, 3 stars of the week. All right. Number 3 star here in episode 151 is D. Scott Howard.
Bah. Bah.
Number 2 star, it starts with a turbo.
Vroom, vroom, vroom. He's turbocharged.
Yes, he is.
See.
Turbocharged. Thank you so much for being our supporter. And number 1 star of the week, David Yamada.
Yay!
Local boy up here. Been listening to the show for a while. Gave us a nice note, nice feedback there. How long he's been listening to the show, and got him through some walks through the Northeast up here. So, David, thank you so much to D. Scott Turbo and David are our 3 stars of the week here on episode 151. Should we wrap things up?
Yeah, don't forget the football pick'em. I was under 500 last week.
Oh yeah, I was 8-7. That was not good at all.
You beat me.
Yeah, I'm a 500 pick. I'm usually under 500. That's why I don't put any money on these things. I just can't pick teams at all.
I was 7 and 8. So
yeah. Anyway, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. By the numbers, this has been episode 151 of the Digital Dice podcast. Way to get a hold of us, digitaldice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the dice line. digitaldice@yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/digitaldice. And if you'd like to help support the show on Patreon for $2 a month or $5 a month, patreon.com/digitaldice. So, all right, Ron, episode 151 in the books.
Aha!
All right, what are you going to play? Anything good tonight?
I'm supposed to do a playoff game in about an hour and a half. So.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so good luck with that. And we'll talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.